Captain Miles Carter had spent most of his adult life at sea. The creak of the deck beneath his boots, the rhythm of the waves, and the endless blue horizon were all he needed to feel at home. On this particular morning, 135 miles offshore in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, he was following a quiet solo route, charting waters most people never dared to explore. The sky was clear, the air still, and the sun shimmered over the gentle swells. Just as he leaned back to sip his coffee, his sonar gave a soft ping, registering a disturbance nearby. Miles frowned. Out here, so far from shore, it was too early for dolphins and too random for whales. He checked again. There was a small, erratic blip, curious and slightly on edge. He stood and walked to the port side. He raised his binoculars and scanned the water. Then he saw it, something moving. At first, he thought it was driftwood or maybe a lost buoy, but as the shape drew closer, his heart jolted. It was alive. It was a dog, a German shepherd, paddling weakly, her head barely above the water, her eyes locked onto his, full of desperation and trust. Miles froze for a split second, heart thundering. Then instinct kicked in. He threw the boat into idle and shouted, "Hang on, girl," as he reached for a rope ladder. He had no idea then that this would be the most incredible rescue of his life. To his absolute disbelief, the shape bobbing in the swells wasn't debris or sea creature. It was a German shepherd, fighting against the ocean with every ounce of strength she had left. Her soaked coat clung to her frail frame, and her legs moved in slow, tired circles. She had clearly been swimming for hours, maybe even days. Her head dipped dangerously low between each breath. But her eyes were wide with fear and flickering hope. Miles stared for a second, stunned. What was a dog doing this far out at sea? Asterisk, asterisk, 135 miles from the nearest land, asterisk, asterisk. It was impossible. Yet here she was, paddling in the middle of nowhere, defying the odds and refusing to give up. As the boat drifted closer, the dog spotted him. Her ears twitched, and with a trembling whimper, she tried to lift her head higher, as if begging him not to disappear like the last thing she must have seen. Her mouth opened in a silent cry, half desperation, half relief. Miles felt a wave of emotion rise in his chest. Without thinking, he dropped the rope ladder over the side and grabbed a life preserver. "Hold on, girl," he murmured, already leaning over the railing. The dog was nearing her limit, and if he hesitated, she'd be gone. Without wasting a second, Miles sprang into action. He grabbed the rope ladder and flung it over the side, his boots thudding against the deck as he raced to the edge. The German shepherd was slipping in and out of rhythm, her strength clearly fading. The swells rocked her helpless body, and her paddling grew frantic as the boat neared. She tried to swim away at first, eyes wide with fear, clearly unsure if this man meant harm or help. But Miles spoke gently, kneeling over the edge and calling out in a calm, steady voice. "It's okay, girl. I've got you." He slipped into the water, cold and deep, and carefully approached her. The moment he touched her, she flinched and tried to resist. But her muscles were too exhausted to fight, and slowly she let him loop one arm around her body. He guided her through the water, pushing her gently but urgently toward the ladder. Each inch was a struggle. She was heavy from water, limp with fatigue, and nearly unconscious. For 40 agonizing minutes, they fought the sea together, him pulling, her barely kicking. Finally, Miles hauled her up the ladder and onto the deck. She collapsed with a wet thud, trembling uncontrollably. He grabbed a towel and wrapped her shivering body, whispering, "You're safe now, girl. You're okay. You're home." Once safely aboard, the dog collapsed in a sodden heap on the deck, her legs giving out beneath her, as if the last ounce of strength had drained from her body. She lay there, chest heaving, eyes fluttering with exhaustion, barely conscious but still alive. Miles gently knelt beside her, placing a hand on her soaked fur. She didn't flinch, too weak to move, too tired to resist. He grabbed another towel and began drying her off, murmuring soothing words as he worked. She had no ID tag, no microchip, no clear sign of ownership, just a faded pink collar, frayed at the edges and crusted with sea salt. As Miles gently combed through her matted fur, he noticed something strange. Tiny barnacle fragments clung to her coat, along with traces of crude oil. These weren't signs of a short swim or a brief dip in the water. They were clues that she had likely fallen or been swept off an oil rig or cargo ship, stranded in the vast ocean with no land, no help, and no hope in sight. Miles sat back, staring at the brave animal lying at his feet. She had defied everything. The currents, the cold, the endless water. Somehow, she had kept going. "You're a fighter," he whispered. "You made it." He looked at her with admiration and sadness, then softly added, "I'm going to call you Hope, because that's what you held on to." Word of the incredible rescue spread quickly once Miles returned to shore. A fellow sailor had snapped a photo of Miles carrying the drenched German shepherd onto the dock, and within hours, the image went viral. Headlines read, "Dog found 135 miles offshore, still alive." Social media erupted with awe and disbelief. People everywhere were amazed at the dogs would survive and the sailor's bravery. Reporters reached out, animal lovers shared the story, and animal welfare groups praised the rescue as nothing short of a miracle. Miles, humble as ever, quietly took Hope to a local vet for a full examination. The veterinarian, a grizzled professional with decades of experience, was stunned. "She's severely underweight," he said, "but there's no internal damage, no broken bones, no infection. Honestly, it's a miracle she's even standing." While Miles waited outside, scrolling to the comments flooding the rescue photo, his phone rang. A shaky voice on the other end said, "I think that's our dog." The woman introduced herself as Karen Dawson, calling from a small town in Texas. She explained she had seen a Facebook post about the rescued German shepherd and burst into tears. "I know it's her," Karen said. "The pink collar, the eyes, the markings. Her name is Sadie, and we lost her in the Gulf during a storm. We thought she was gone forever." Miles' heart pounded. Could Hope, now Sadie, really belong to a family who'd never stop hoping? As the details unfolded, the full scope of Hope's journey became even more astounding. The woman on the phone, Karen Dawson, shared how her family had been sailing on their private boat when a sudden, violent storm rolled in. Waves surged, lightning cracked overhead, and chaos erupted. Their vessel was slammed by a rogue wave and capsized within minutes. The Coast Guard had managed to locate and rescue the Dawsons clinging to debris, but in the chaos, their beloved German shepherd, Sadie, was swept away. "We searched, screamed her name, prayed she'd come swimming toward us," Karen sobbed. But she was just gone. The family had mourned her like a lost child. For 2 weeks, they had lived with the heartbreak of believing Sadie had drowned in the storm. They even held a small memorial at the shore where they had last seen her. But against all odds, Sadie hadn't given up. She had battled open sea, exhaustion, hunger, and isolation, surviving an unimaginable journey. *** 135 miles across the Gulf of Mexico, *** with nothing but instinct and willpower. She had refused to die. She hadn't been swept away into oblivion. She had been fighting her way back. Now, thanks to a stranger's compassion and her own unbreakable spirit, she had a chance to come home. Hope was more than just a name now. It was a story of survival that defied logic, and a reminder that even in the darkest waters, the heart finds a way to keep beating. Miles could have arranged for Hope to be flown or driven by someone else, but he knew this reunion needed to be personal. So he loaded her into his truck, wrapped her in a soft blanket, and drove nearly 400 miles inland to a small rural town in Texas. Hope lay curled on the passenger seat, resting peacefully for the first time in days, occasionally lifting her head to look at him with those soulful eyes. It was as if she understood this journey was a final stretch of something miraculous. When Miles pulled into the Dawson family's driveway, they were already outside waiting. Karen, her husband Mark, and their 2 children stood frozen as the truck door opened. The moment Hope stepped out, wobbly but alert, a wave of emotion crashed over them. Karen dropped to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Sadie," she whispered, voice trembling. Hope let out a joyful bark. *** her first in days, ***. And in an instant, she bolted forward. She leapt into Karen's arms, her tail whipping like a flag, her tongue furiously licking away tears. The kids sobbed, burying their faces in her fur, while Mark stood behind them, hands over his mouth, overcome with emotion. It was a reunion no one thought possible. The dog they had mourned, the companion they believed lost to the sea, was now alive in their arms again. Hope had endured everything, storms, hunger, exhaustion, but she had held on. And now, at long last, she was home. Hope's story didn't end at the Dawsons' doorstep. It became a global sensation. Within days, her miraculous rescue and emotional reunion had been shared by major news outlets, animal rescue pages, and dog lovers around the world. People were stunned by the sheer will it took for a dog to survive 135 miles of open ocean, and equally touched by the sailor who risked everything to save her. Hope became a symbol of loyalty and resilience, an icon of what love, both given and received, can endure. Children sent drawings. Schools studied her journey. Letters poured in from across continents. Animal welfare organizations celebrated her survival as one of the most extraordinary in modern history. They named her Canine of the Year, praising not just her endurance, but the emotional impact she made on millions. Miles Carter, who never sought attention, was honored by rescue organizations and maritime associations for his bravery and compassion. When asked why he did it, he simply said, "Because she was fighting to live, I just gave her a hand." Hope now lived peacefully with the Dawson family once more, healthier, stronger, and cherished even more deeply than before. Her story remained a shining reminder that even in the darkest, most impossible circumstances, courage can carry us through. The ocean had tested her body, tried to break her soul, but her love never drowned.